And good morning. We are back on WGN TV Political Report. For 1 month, all eyes have been on the state capitol and Capitol Hill as politicians and activists push for an assault weapons ban in the wake of the Highland Park parade shooting. Well, this week, state lawmakers met with stakeholders to talk about all aspects of getting guns off our streets.
The challenge in the city of Chicago is that we have had unsustainable violence reductions, and that's what we want to be able to work towards, like other major cities have, so that we don't have a period of 2 years where things feel good and then we go back up.
The technology is there and people have access to it to, create, to kill as many people as possible in a short amount of time. And that's what we're looking at banning when we talk about an assault weapons ban.
Now, key priorities include stopping the flow of guns from surrounding states, putting more funding into anti-violence programs and victim funds, and finding more resources to collect revoked FOID cards, while others are still hoping to better enforce the laws Illinois already has on the books. State Representative LaShawn Ford is the chair of the House Public Safety and Violence Prevention Task Force. His 8th district covers the city's west side, part of the western suburbs. Mr. Representative, good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Good morning. So, I wanted to point out you had lots of law enforcement people at your hearing, which I observed on Thursday, but you had a licensed gun dealer. What did you learn from the gun dealer?
Well, I learned that we have a battle on our hands when it comes down to trying to find common ground, because the gun dealers seem to believe that everything is okay as it relates to gun laws in Illinois, even when we see a need to ban assault rifles in Illinois.
Following the Highland Park tragedy, you said to Illinois Playbook that the attention to Highland Park echoes the reaction after George Floyd's killing. In 2020, it exposed white people to what black people experience all the days of their lives. What they saw became a reality. Are you saying the response is different now because this happened in a more affluent community?
I think so. I mean, in America, anytime it happens to an affluent community, and to be blunt, anytime it happens to white people, it gets the attention. I mean, and so it's an opportunity for the communities to come together. We shouldn't look at Highland Park and frown at the work that they're doing. We should look at the work that they're doing and combine it and make sure communities come together to save lives.
Representative Bob Morgan, who's part of that effort, says the gun laws, mental health care, they're just inadequate in this state. There was some discussion. The question got raised in your meeting on Thursday. Do we need new laws? Do we enforce existing laws? And one of the guests that testified said, look, I don't know. What is your view on that?
Oh, we need to make sure that we have the best laws on the books to protect the Second Amendment. I believe in the Second Amendment. We have to make sure that people enjoy it. But anytime you have cases where we see people are dying from assault rifles in our state and these semi-automatic guns, we have to do something about it. And so we can't sit idly by watching people die when we know there's something that we could do to curtail the violence and preventable deaths.
If you stopped the average Illinoisan on the street, they would say, this is a blue state. How do we not have an assault weapons ban here? I had Kathleen Sances on the show last week from GPAC, and she said, as she talks to different Democrats, there are some who are in mixed districts, and even some Democrats are afraid to support the assault weapons ban at this time. It's election year. Do you agree with that? What is your sense of that? And does that mean we're waiting until after November to see that effort?
You know, we have to do everything that we can to protect life. And when we think about the assault rifles and the damage that it does to communities, we should be willing to give up some of our liberties as it relates to the Second Amendment. And so it probably will take effect after the election, because even Democrats in my district, I find them telling me, I don't want you voting to eliminate assault rifles. And those are black people. Not everyone wants assault rifles banned in Illinois, and it's a political football right now.
There are people who are required to turn their FOID cards in, and then part of that meeting you had on Thursday, there was discussion of the fact that, I was a little surprised,
It's a mental health problem, and it could go to court, and that red flag is implemented. Well, there's about 20,000 people right now in Illinois, FOID cards that have been revoked, and the guns are still in their homes. That's a danger to all the people in Illinois.
Can you take steps to up that effort then, to go after them?
Yeah, Sheriff Dart is working with the General Assembly, and we're going to do everything we can. Remember, it's 20,000 cards that's been revoked. They can have hundreds of guns.
Just even among those.
Just among those.
What, you know, the assault weapons, which is on everybody's mind because of the events that have happened here, but even if the Illinois State Assembly banned them, I mean, it's common sense to realize, is there any way, any law you could pass that would keep weapons from coming across state lines into Illinois?
No. I mean, until the states begin to work together to have their systems talk to one another, we're not going to be able to know if assault rifles have been bought across our borders. But it's important to know, Paul, that a lot of guns that are found to be used in criminal activity are bought right here in Illinois. More guns are bought right here in Illinois than across our borders. So we still have a lot of work to do to make sure that we stop the illegal guns from hitting our streets.
Your committee also dealt with mental health issues, and I know the governor is setting up some working groups. He also set one up on mental health, chaired by Representative Fred Crespo. Why is there a separate mental health entity when you're dealing with those issues?
No, I think that all hands on deck. I think that Fred Crespo, being a seasoned legislator, he's a great legislator. He understands this issue, and he could set a table where people can make a case as it relates to mental and behavioral health. Behavioral health, strong mental and behavioral health is important, and they could make a case why people that are struggling with these mental health problems shouldn't have firearms.
There are funds in some of the federal COVID funds supposed to be going and are going for mental health services, and they deal a lot with possible perpetrators, right? Deal with people who have the issues. But again, in your committee, it became clear that there's funding also needed for the support of families and other people who are affected by this. Am I right? There's also some COVID funds that sometimes aren't even getting out, that have gone unused.
You know, the Illinois Department of Human Services is saying that they have hundreds of millions of dollars that they can't give away. And so the Assistant Secretary, Chris Patterson, talked about ways that he's going to try to hit the streets to make sure this money is made available and help people fill out the application for these COVID violence prevention funds. So the people should know that there are hundreds of millions of dollars available to help fight crime. But Paul, one thing that's important, we have to budget for results, and we need to make sure that individuals and organizations that receive this money actually are held accountable too, and we need to see reduction in crime in our city and state.
I know you continue to make those efforts. I just want to, while I have you here, we're at another mayoral election. You ran before, so the floor is yours. If you have an announcement you'd like to make for that office, go ahead.
Yeah, I tell you, I'm available to run for mayor, and I know it costs lots of money, and so I would say if you want me to run for mayor, call me.
Okay. So that's the announcement.
That's the announcement.
All right. Thought we had him. Representative LaShawn Ford, thanks for being with me. I appreciate you. Have a good Sunday.
Same too.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. Still to come on WGN-TV Political Report.
It's only the Democrats in Washington who don't understand what's happening in this country.
Democrats say they've got a plan to bring down historically high inflation, but Republicans, they remain skeptical that it'll actually work. More from Washington when we come back.